Okay, so in this training, we're going to be talking about the failure curve. Now, when I say failure curve, this is the typical pathway that people go through uh, to fail and to win. And what determines the difference between the two is how far along this curve you get through, how far along you persist until you can get to the point where you're seeing some small wins, getting the wins that you wanted, and then seeing the big exponential wins further past that. So I'm just gonna draw it out here on this little board so that you can kind of visualize what this failure curve looks like. And it's kind of like when I did that training video on the impulse curve of a sales call, except this is your timeline, like I said, in your journey to learning something new and getting into something where you hope to see some sort of return of success. So we could say that this is you starting out. This is you right here, and it's the thing you're in now, right? So this is where you are now. This is whatever it is you're doing. And then you kind of get this grass is greener syndrome. So you get on this high when you find this new thing. We're going to put a big G, and that stands for greener grass. So you see something, you're like, that sounds good. It sounds simpler. It sounds like I could get amazing results. It sounds like something I want to do other than what I am doing now. And then what happens when you actually get into it and start to move forward in the thing that you think is a lot easier and a lot better than what you're doing now, you start to see the reality of the work. So your impulse, your excitement, your everything starts to drop. So we're going to put a nice R here and call this reality of the work. That's the first little point after you get that grass is greener syndrome. And then your kind of excitement starts to go down, it starts to climb down, fall down, sometimes lower than where you were before. And this is the kind of depth that you see. And right here, I like to call that this is where you're kind of like in a monotonous execution stage where you're kind of like, man, we're going to put a nice M there, where you're like, man, this is taking a lot of work. It's boring. It's just the same thing day after day. I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should continue. This is where people start to doubt if they ever should have gotten into this in the first place, if they ever should have made that investment, joined that program, started that thing, quit that job. This is where they start to doubt, have remorse, and most people will quit here. So, what I like to call this is the monotonous execution, is because really this is the point where you now know what to do. You've got that grass is greener syndrome there. You jumped into it. You started to learn that there was actually work, and your impulse started to go down. Your excitement started to go down once you learned the work. Now you know what work you have to do to get this thing going. And you're in the dumps because you're like seeing that it's gonna take a lot of it, and a lot more than you thought it was when you were in this little section here, thinking that the grass was so much greener on this side of the field. So this is where a lot of people quit, and that's why they fail, is because if they just persist past this point and they just get through the monotonous work that's right here, they just commit and they say, you know what? It kind of sucks. It's boring. It's not sexy as I thought it was going to be, but I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to commit a year to it, 2 years to it, 5 years to just doing the monotonous work. And they start doing it. And then what happens is they start to see some results after some time is spent, right? So this is where the small wins start to come in, right? So let's do SW. So this is where you start to see a small win and you start to get a little bit happy because, you're winning. You're starting to see some results. If it's that new job, that new opportunity, you're starting to see some income coming in. Things are starting to make sense. And then if you keep persisting, now you see the big win because maybe this is the 1 year mark where you start to see small wins because you committed a year to it. Now you're at the 2 to 3 year mark where now you're winning pretty big. You're starting to see some big wins. Now you're really really excited here. The momentum's starting to pick up. Your work is starting to pay off. When you set out that goal to make 10K a month, maybe you just had your first 10K a month. So let's call this big win, right? Maybe you just had your first 10K a month, you're feeling good, you want more, you want to push. Now you iterate, right? So you keep pushing past, and we'll just do a big I there. This is your iteration zone, right? And maybe it's let's not do straight up, but let's say things start to kind of even out here, but then you iterate, right? You start to apply something else, or you learn another skill that's additional to the thing you've been building this whole time, that really allows you to see that exponential win and just win massively in the long term. This is the massive win. Let's do MW. This is, mama, we made it. We're going to keep going, obviously, but this is like you are now a winner, right? So the example here, if I were to just plug it into Closer College, I would say right here is, let's say someone's just working their job, right? So let's say someone's working their job. They find out about remote closing. Then they see that, oh, you can work remote. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, you can, make 10K a month as a closer. That's awesome. Oh, you just need a laptop and Wi-Fi. That's awesome. Oh, you don't have to be a business owner and create a product or deliver a product. You just gotta learn one skill and sell. All of that's awesome. So they jump into it, right? They have this huge upswing of excitement and momentum, and they jump into remote closing. Then they realize, oh, you like being a closer, you actually have to like be good. Like you got to learn the skill. That kind of is harder than I thought it was going to be, to actually speak to people and have them buy products and services that are high ticket, and help people overcome fears and handle objections and frame the call properly and do discovery. So their impulse starts to go down a little bit. And they say, oh, finding a good, like high quality opportunity is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Companies aren't just oozing with leads, then they're not just going to completely stack my calendar. As a brand new beginner who knows nothing about sales, I'm actually going to have to build a bit of a track record, maybe take on a less quality position and actually prove myself before I get onto these 20, 30K, 40K a month kind of offers. Okay, I didn't know it was going to take some work. I'm going to have to do a lot of mock calls and, source opportunities and build my network and actually start to know people in the industry. I didn't know it was going to take all of that work. So that's where the despair starts to kick in, the decline, the lack of motivation starts to kick in, and then they get here. It's like, okay, they know that all of this is the work that's going to get them there, or maybe not there, but they know all of that is the work that's going to get them to that big win, that 10K, 20K a month that they wanted, which is the reason why they jumped into it in the first place. But they don't want to do the work. So they get down here and they quit, right? So that's why most people fail. That's why if you failed over and over and over again, you've probably failed because of this, because you've gotten to the point where it's going to take work and you're not going to see the results from that work for months on end, because the momentum's being built, and you quit and you kind of repeat this cycle. So what a lot of people will do is once they get here, they kind of hear about something else. This is like their new now, right? And then they hear about another grass is greener thing, and they start the cycle over again, and they get stuck in this. And I know it's getting a little crowded here, but they get stuck in like this little box here, and they never experience this box here. They never experience the right box. They get stuck in the left box because where they're at, they hear about something else, they get started in it, they realize there's work, they get demotivated, and then they hear about something else that apparently grass is greener, it's easier, it's better. They get started in it, and the cycle continues. But back to the remote closer example, you realize that the work is consistently doing mock calls to improve your skill. You realize the work is creating multiple iterations of your 1 minute video to land higher, like better interviews. You realize the work is doing interview mocks so you can show up and present yourself really well. You realize the work is jumping on an offer that might not be the dream offer at first, but building a track record of a good close rate, cash collected, a good set to close rate, so that you have numbers to go into the best possible opportunities with, so that they're more likely to hire you because you have a track record of performance now. They realize that they're going to have to do some outreach and build their network and get to know people and talk to people in order to get in touch with and keep up with people, in order to get in touch with some of the best opportunities in the market that are going to pay them 30, 40 grand a year. Now, or a year, not a year, a month. So they realize that that's the work. They know that that's the work. but they don't want to do it. So they quit and they jump into this grass is greener cycle again. Now, the people that win are the ones who are like, you know what? I'm just going to commit. And they sit here for a long time. They sit here for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it takes to get it done, right? And sitting here means day by day doing your outreach, day by day doing the mock calls, day by day when you are on the opportunity, continuing to learn on the opportunity, day by day doing all the things that you already know to do to be successful. And then they start to see the small win. Maybe they land their first opportunity and they start making 5, 6K a month on that opportunity. Right. They land an opportunity, they're making like 2, 3K a month. Then they improve their skill set and get that same opportunity to 3, 4, 5, 6K, because at the end of the day, there's no cap. It just comes down to how good you are. So they start to see small wins. They start to see, 5, 6 grand a month working remotely. They start to enjoy some of the benefits of being a closer, working from their computer, traveling a little bit. Maybe they don't have a family and they're not much older, so they can splurge a little bit of that money, and then they continue. They keep getting better. They get the reps in. They've taken tons of calls with this company now, and they know how to close deals, or they know how to set appointments if they're a setter. And they start to see bigger wins. They start to see like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12K a month. They're sitting here now. They're really happy because they're like, hey, this was worth getting into. This was awesome. I really enjoy this industry. I'm making money now. I'm closing deals. I'm making 15 grand a month. I'm making 10 grand a month. I'm making whatever it is based on my skill set. I can see the trajectory of where I'm going because every month is getting better and better because I'm closing more because I got more experience. And then some people will stay here. They get into satisfaction zone. And what I always say is if you're not growing, you're dying. So they get satisfied and they eventually start to regress and go backwards. But the people that, got here were smart enough to get here. So what they're usually smart enough to do is to keep going and iterate, right? They're usually smart enough to iterate, which, for a closer, that could be you're great at selling, you're great at leading prospects to where they want to go, but how are you at duplicating yourself, your own skill? How good are you at leading others? So what some people will do here is they'll build their leadership skills now. And maybe they'll start duplicating what they are winning in, what they're doing, how they sell into other people in the team, and eventually move on to being a team leader. Maybe they'll take those sales skills and bring it to their own business. They want to start their own offer. Maybe they had a massive passion for fitness and now they've got the sales skills. So now they just need to go learn the marketing stuff and to keep growing and to start their own business because they know they can close all day. They just got to learn how to get leads, and then they can use their already learned appointment setting skills to set their own appointments and their closing skills to close those deals. Maybe they take this opportunity to somewhere else, or they just become a team leader. There's lots and lots of places you can go once you've learned the skill. So that's what the iteration is that leads to the massive win. Because now the massive win is you're a top tier closer on a top tier offer, making 30, 40K a month. Some I've seen offers go as high as 80K a month. Again, not typical, but this is, you can find them for sure. Maybe that massive win is you becoming a sales manager now, making 40, 50K a month, managing a sales team, 70K a month, managing a sales team. Maybe that big win is, I've seen people go from appointment setter, working their butt off with a company, eventually becoming the CEO of that company as they work their way up over 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Maybe that massive win is leaving and using your sales skills to start your own company. Now you're, making multi seven figures because you're running a successful company off the back of, how to sell like crazy. So there's lots of massive wins that can come off the back of this, but it all starts, and like the real test of it is, what do you do down here when it's time to get into the monotonous work? What do you do down here when it's time to just execute for a long period of time and see nothing in return? Do you stick it out, or do you quit and jump back into this cycle? I know I gave a remote closing as an example, but it really doesn't matter what it is. If you're in drop shipping, if you're an affiliate marketer, if you're just starting your own agency, if you're starting your own coaching business, if you're, starting your own roofing company, whatever it is, there's going to come a time where you realize what the work is, and then you just got to do it and see almost nothing in return for it, because you're building the building blocks that's going to allow you to see the small win, then the big win, then the massive win. Super, super important concept for people to understand, because once you understand it, winning will be very, very easy, because when you get to that point, you don't have those negative thoughts of, well, is this the wrong thing? Should I have not done this? Am I doing something wrong? And a lot of social media perpetuates this thought process, because people always show the quick win. People always show the fast win. People always show the, 100K a month in 30 days or 90 days, how this person made 10, 20 grand a month in their first 60, 70 days. So then people, when they get to that point where it's time to put in the work, they quit because they say, oh, I must be doing something wrong, or I must be in the wrong thing, or this program or this person that I'm working with must not be teaching me the right stuff, because this is supposed to be a 90-day thing. This is supposed to be a 60-day thing, when that's just not how success works. That's just not how anything really works. Usually the people that saw success in 60, 70, 90 days came in with some prior skills, came in with prior experience, or they just like hit everything, right timing, a little bit of luck, and they were a hard worker. They came in with a massively hard work ethic. They came in with a wide open schedule to dedicate everything to it. I'm not saying you can't win in 60, 90 days, but don't quit just because you don't. That's why you fail, is because you quit when you don't see anything in the first 6 months to a year, and you go do something else and wonder why you're never winning and you're stuck in this cycle. It's because you have to get through that monotonous period. You get through that monotonous period and you will win big. You're here for the long game. Your life is long. What is 3 year or a 2 year or a 5 year or even a 10-year sacrifice to make as much money as you want to be making? And on top of that, live the lifestyle that you want to live. Lots of people sacrifice a lot more for less. So I think it's worth it at the end of the day. I'm going to leave it here for this training video. Hope that makes sense. I'll see you guys in the next Closer College training video.